Welcome to Homekeepers. How are you today, my friend? Come right on in. So glad to be with you today. And you will be very well informed if you'll stay with us. And I'll tell you about that in a second, but I do want to welcome everybody, all of you, our regular viewers and the brand new ones. We have been getting some good information and orders and letters and emails and so forth from some brand new people, and that is always exciting. So come right on into the parlor, and this is a day that you can really be educated because my guest is Ginny Dent Brant. She has written Unleash Your God-Given Healing, and she gives you 8 steps to prevent and or survive cancer. Let me tell you, there's been a lot of cancer in my family, like I'm sure there has probably been in yours. She, in my opinion, has written a very definitive, very, very complete book, just outlining everything and anything that has something to do with cancer. So she will be my guest on the next program as well. She's covered so much material here, so I think this will be beneficial to anybody who gets to hear her today. And I'm going to join Stephanie, and we have really been tossing around, how do you pronounce this soup? It's an Italian soup, and I'm sure none of us, like myself, can really pronounce it like a real Italian. So I'm going to call it pasta Fagoli. Jenny, Stephanie's, what do you think, Brooke? Is that good? Good, okay. Getting a lot of encouragement from the crew today. We're going to put it together for you anyway. It's a wonderful soup. I'm sure a lot of you have had it in restaurants, but we're going to have a recipe here that you can do at home. And I want to again offer you, because we couldn't get these books for a while. They became available again, so we've got a supply of the Daniel Plan. This was written by Rick Warren and taken from the scripture, but it just so gives you a good plan for your life, physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. Just a wonderful book, and it was on the bestseller list for a long time. And so it's yours for that gift of $23 to the program. You can use the 800 number, 1-800-229-0059, or write to me at Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758. I don't know about you, but I always love to stop by my mailbox on the way home, and we feel the same way here at Homekeepers. We love getting your mail. So thank you either way. That is a very beneficial book for you, but it also helps keep us on the air. And I'm here with Stephanie.
I love getting mail. It's just really weird. My husband knows not to check the mail because I like to get it.
That's your thing.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
Well,
I
live in a
it's usually
townhouse.
bills, but
I live in a townhouse, so all the mailboxes are together when you drive in, and I've fallen off of it twice. But my daughter went and she fell off it. So it's
oh no,
it's the
No.
steps.
yeah.
It's the height of the steps.
Oh,
so
my.
oh, am I ever careful now?
So they're not the only ones. I mean, surely you're not the only ones. They could probably put a video camera there and.
Oh, the last one, the Lord was watching out for me, or I could have busted my skull. My nose was scratched, could have knocked my teeth out, and I had to have stitches in my knee.
I thought she got in a barroom brawl when she came in here. No.
So I thank God, it could have been so bad.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Okay, so we made sausage. I took the sausage out, and there was a little bit of the goodness left, so I'm just sauteing some onions. I'm going to saute some garlic. This is my favorite soup. Dave and my husband and I, get Olive Garden to go a lot. We'll get soup and salad to go and just eat it at home. This is always the soup. I didn't know it was this easy to make, so I might just make it from
See how it tastes.
Yeah. So
how do you pronounce it?
Well, fagioli is what I usually say, but then when I Googled, I think Italians say fagioli. Pasta fagioli.
And they always do this.
Please know we're not Italian and we're not trying to mess it up, okay? So that was onions and garlic, okay? So now we're just going to add all the yummy stuff. I have chicken broth. And I have this pan really hot so we could really cook fast. So take your time at home. Let it cook and
especially
marry.
soups.
Yeah.
When I
And then
make
I have-
soup, I put it on the lowest heat and just let it just.
yes, simmer. And these are great
all
northern
married in
beans
there.
that are drained and rinsed.
I believe in this book, there's a lot about nutrition, the wonderful properties of beans.
Yes,
I love beans.
I have a health coach coming on soon. I'm super
Yes.
excited. She's has a great personality and she has amazing tips. So I can't wait. Okay, this is a can of petite diced tomatoes. I'm going to turn this up. I'm going to do a little salt and pepper. Oh, you're supposed to be working.
Oh,
You're
yes, I'm supposed to do
a
some.
cup of spinach that you're just going to cut up a little bit so they're not so big. So just a little bit of, it didn't call for salt, but we have decided that it may need a little salt and pepper. And we have already cooked some noodles.
I would call this an entree.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, we get soup and salad from Olive Garden all the time, and this is, along with the yummy breadsticks, is our meal. Okay. Plus, we cook some elbow macaronis.
Have you ever had, you go to Carrabba's sometimes?
I've been there once or twice. I embarrassed myself one time.
So you can't go back.
Well, I mean, I could go to anyone, but the redneck comes out of me. I can't help it. And I'm trying to order, and I go, mashed taters. And my husband looks at me. He's like, did you just say taters? I'm like, I'm so sorry.
There
Thank
you are.
you. Oh, where's my cheese?
Your what?
The cheese.
Oh, it's in there.
Let's
Right there on the top shelf.
Oh, there
Covered
it
up.
is. Yep. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Whew, most
You
important part.
couldn't have anything Italian without a lot of Parmesan in it.
Okay, so you're supposed to let this boil. You're supposed to let this cook for a long time. You could even put those noodles in. If you were going to let it cook a long time,
Right,
you
we
could put
cooked
the
them a little
noodles
bit.
in.
Do you put the water in last?
I'm gonna, yeah, well, we will.
I would, because you might
I don't
want
want
it.
too much yet.
Yeah, you might not want
Yeah,
as much as the recipe calls.
yeah, because that's a
Oh,
lot.
look at that.
This is going to be delicious. I can make this at home easily. And then we're going to put the spinach in, and
After it really can simmer a while, I want you to,
I'll keep
and that
this.
won't be
Thank
on
you.
the show, but I want you to give me your professional.
Oh, my professional taste bud opinion.
Well, you're used to the professional
Yes,
one.
very
you know.
used to it. So the
So-
spinach will wilt down a little bit. We're just letting this warm up so we
Uh-huh.
can, am I tasting it or are you tasting it with me
Yeah.
today? And then we're going to put some yummy cheese on it. I love when they come around at the restaurant with the cheese grater.
Oh, yes.
They're like, more? Yes, please, more.
Yeah, they
Yes,
keep
please."
going like
I'm
this.
I'm
They
not going
keep-
to tell you to stop, so when you get tired.
They keep waiting for me to say something. Keep going.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, this is way too early, and I know you
Yes.
understand, but
Yes.
you
So
talk
cook
about
it a lot longer.
that is not soup. That's
It looks like
main
it.
dish.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be very good. Let me put some cheese on it. So good. Okay.
And you can pronounce it any way you
You
like.
can.
I'm
Yep.
just going to take a little broth here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is delicious.
Is it as good as Olive
Yes.
Garden? Okay.
That is so good. Oh,
information.
when
That
things
is
work.
that really is good. So, if you want this recipe, information's coming up on your screen. Get it the way that's most convenient to you, and then I want you to meet my guest, and you're going to learn a lot today. So pay attention.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may receive it by contacting us through social media as listed on the screen. When requesting a copy through the mail, be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you, and please know we always appreciate hearing from our viewers.
I'm very pleased to introduce to you Ginny Dent Brant. She's an author of, I believe this is her second book. The name of it is Unleash Your God-Given Healing, and this deals with cancer. I've gone over it rather thoroughly. I would say it's the definitive book on cancer. If you want to educate yourself with something that you can read, because this is not a physician's handbook with a whole lot of big words in it. Pay attention and you'll know where you can get it later. But welcome, Jenny. So glad to have you. And congratulations.
Thank you. It was quite an endeavor. in the
How
middle
long
of a
did it
cancer
take you?
journey. 3 years of research and writing.
Lots of research and very impressive endorsements from the medical field. So congratulations on this. This describes your own breast cancer journey.
It does.
And there was something in you from the beginning to like try to get to the bottom of this. What am I dealing with?
Well, it was just the first shock came 4 months after my mother died from breast cancer, and then I hear the words after I, by accident, found a lump in my breast, and when the doctor said, "You have cancer," I was in shock, I was in denial. Then the next week, he tells me it's aggressive, and then the next week, he flashes my body up on this MRI, life size on the wall, because I'm telling him, "No, I don't believe you," and he says, "It's all over your body." And I said, "That just can't be." So I flew to Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Chicago to get a second opinion, and I recommend that anyone diagnosed with a serious illness or a cancer that is stage 3, 4, or aggressive, get a second opinion. And I did, and it's probably the best thing I could have done. And they helped me to see that maybe it wasn't as bad as they thought. Yes, it was aggressive, okay? But they went through the risk factors with me for the cancer I got, and I didn't have one of them. And so they said, "Well, we must do genetic testing since your mother died of breast cancer. Let's go ahead and do genetic testing." They did extensive genetic testing, and nothing showed up.
Now that's not real common, is it?
It's
Genetic
not real common. They were telling me that at the time they were saying, we're seeing more and more of this as time goes on. Usually we can tell someone, we can look at the risk factors and we can say, oh, like my mother, she got an estrogen-fed breast cancer because she was taking hormones past menopause for many, many years. So they could point to the reason, okay? In my case, they couldn't point to a reason, okay? And it is becoming more common, but as you'll see a little bit later on as we talk, everything has a reason. And when they couldn't find a reason, I didn't stop. No stone would be unturned. I needed to find out why I got cancer, because how can I prevent it from coming back if I don't know why I got it in the first place? And then when they started bringing out the words that no one wants to hear, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, immunotherapy, medical pills for 5 years, all these things they were bringing out, I wanted to know what I could do to help my doctor to beat my cancer, what I could do to complement what they were doing and to lessen the side effects of all the weapons they were going to have to bring out.
Do you have any statistics on those women who approaching menopause or in menopause, and they gave you estrogen for years?
Yes, yes. And let me say this, first of all, there is disagreement between integrative medical doctors and conventional medical doctors on whether taking the natural hormones contributes to breast cancer. There are some integrative doctors that say, no, if you do it right, if you measure correctly, and if you do the natural hormones, then
What's a natural hormone?
A natural hormone is something made from like a plant, okay? The synthetic hormones are made from things to do with horses and things. So there's disagreement there. Some doctors say that this doesn't contribute.
So they still prescribe that?
There are still doctors prescribing it,
couple, 3 decades when I was facing that, and I always thought it was, because that was the conventional wisdom then. You start through menopause and they, okay, take this. And I really think it was the Holy Spirit that spoke to me and said, at least my idea was, if God created the body to go through seasons and chemical changes, why mess with it? So I didn't, but I had a lot of friends my age who eventually had cancer, either uterine or breast or
Right,
something.
and most doctors consider any hormones given after menopause to be a contributing factor to an estrogen-fed breast
Now
cancer.
they do.
Yes,
Yeah.
now they do. Now they do.
Okay, I think most people wouldn't really go for a second opinion because breast cancer is almost common.
1 in 8. 1 in 8 women are getting breast cancer today.
But there was something, I think the Lord guided you because this is the result right here, can help a lot of people, that you did go to another place where you got a far more extensive examination and information.
Yes, and I did it because they said it was aggressive. Like I said, anytime they tell you your cancer is aggressive, and they tell you that your cancer is stage 3 or stage 4, and I got both of those, is what I was told, you need to get a second opinion. Your insurance pays for it, and it's to your benefit to do that. And it was a good thing that I did it.
I got a whole bunch of pages here. I went through your book. I'm going to get on it. Okay, you read over 50 books written by scientists, doctors, and nutritionists.
Yes.
And it's detailed here. And as I said at the top of the show, you can understand this book. You don't need to go to medical school to understand it.
But the medical reference is there in the back if you want to look at that
Yeah,
complicated
check her out.
research that I got it from. Yeah.
So before your diagnosis, did you research any of this at all? Do you have any interest in it?
Well, quite honestly, I did, because my family had too much cancer in it. Both my parents had cancer of the colon. My grandmother had it, my uncle died from it, and so cancer of the colon was running through my family like crazy. And so the doctor told me at 30, after I'd just given birth to twins, we need to do your first colonoscopy because you're high risk, because your second parent has been diagnosed with this. So that was always in the back of my mind, that I didn't want to get colon cancer. So I was researching, I was doing things to try to prevent colon cancer. For breast cancer, I was simply getting the mammograms every year. And that's a good thing to do. But in looking back, I didn't see how I could be, preventative in that. I was just going for the mammograms, and if you read the book carefully, 2 mammograms missed my breast cancer. So it was not found by mammogram, it was found by me accidentally getting my ring caught in my nightie, the lace of my nightie at night, and it got caught and it woke me up and I had to get it undone, and then I felt a lump.
Did anyone give you an explanation as to why the other mammograms missed it?
Yes. It's because I have dense breast, and 40% of women have dense breast, meaning that mammogram is not going to, that's right, it's going to be missed. Now they have a 3D mammogram, which is a little more clear, but even my oncologist doesn't rely just on that.
You struggled spiritually because you were known as a health nut.
Yes, I was. I was trying to be healthy.
Is there like a problem there?
Yeah. Well, it was just so disillusioning to me because I worked for a school district. I was a guidance counselor. I helped revamp the school lunch program to be healthy. I spoke on health and wellness. I taught every student in my school about how to be healthy. And then I'm the one who gets cancer. It just didn't make sense. But the more I researched and the further I looked, I realized I wasn't health nutty enough. I had certainly missed some things, but the things I missed are the same things that most people don't know. And that's why, even though I didn't want to write this book, I'll be honest with you, when the chaplain at the hospital said, "Ginny, consider your cancer a gift from God for you to help other people," and I looked at him and I said, "You don't understand. I don't want this gift. No, please give it to someone else. I don't want the gift." And I told him I would never write a book on cancer or speak about it openly or publicly. I didn't want people to know I had cancer. And then after I did all this research and realized that I got cancer because I missed some things that most people don't know, what about the other people that don't know too?
Well, I like this because a layman wrote it, and you can get this off your website, I'm sure, but also Amazon, and all of the places.
All the places.
And it's the name of it is Unleash Your God-Given Healing, and it's got 8 steps when it comes to cancer. Just real quickly, because as we're sitting here today, we've got this COVID thing going on, and it has just shaken the nation, in fact, the world. You called it our wake-up call.
Yes, it is our wake-up call to shape up. We really need to get in shape in this country because this may not be the only virus that comes our way. There may be viruses in the future when we get through this one. But we all need to keep our immune system working as God intended. And what's happened during this COVID thing is that it's no secret that the research is showing that people that have secondary heart conditions, type 2 diabetes, lung issues, kidney issues, these people are having more difficulty and having
Right.
more side effects from the COVID.
And dying.
And dying, yeah.
Because what they don't tell you, as we're right in the middle of it right now, that 95% of people get better.
That's right.
But those with the underlying conditions, a virus can really be very, very, very serious. So this book, it's valuable to have even if it's not a cancer issue in you or your family. It's just an overall good book. You implemented new things in your lifestyle. What did your doctors say?
Well, actually, because I went to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, they believe in integrating holistic medicine in the cancer journey. So they were not fighting me on this.
Which is medical, nutrition.
Yes,
all those
of
things
that.
that we ought to do.
They had an
anyway.
acupuncturist on my case. They had a naturopathic doctor on my case.
An acupuncturist?
Yes, and a
What do they do?
and a nutritionist. Well, to be perfectly honest, the chemo regime I was given is the worst known to mankind, and it can easily take your red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets down to nothing. And if your red blood cells get below 5 or 6, they have to do blood transfusions. So I went to the acupuncturist to help keep my red blood cells up. Some people do it for chronic pain
Well, don't they just
caused from the chemo.
don't they stick you with pins and needles?
They do. They are very, very fine. But what
But how
they
does
did,
that affect a blood cell?
for some reason, it did help the red blood cells. I never went below 10.2. So I was actually climbing mountains, doing the Cooper River Bridge run. I was walking it, it's 10 kilometers, doing chemotherapy. Well, that's kind of unheard of, but if your red blood cells were up, then you're not lying in the bed all day long. And the more movement you can do, the better your cancer journey's gonna go.
I'm just thinking that never ever has been on television before, that acupuncture can help your blood
It's
cells.
really for chronic
Yeah.
pain. For a lot of people in the cancer journey from the chemotherapy and the different things get chronic pain, and it helps with the chronic pain. But in my case, I heard it could do that, and they couldn't guarantee me that it would.
it did
but
work.
it did. So,
All right, okay. You studied biblical health, science, and nutrition, and I think that is so wise when you think the children of Israel walked for 40 years, but there wasn't an overweight one in the bunch.
you know there wasn't.
Yeah, they were probably pretty
No one
slim.
was overweight back then because they didn't have cars.
Yeah, and have you noticed, like in Walmart and places like this, have these little electric scooters? I see more and more and more and more of overweight Americans. But there's a lot of health information in the scripture. And I think
there is.
Children of Israel certainly is one of them, but also the book of Daniel, where Daniel and his boys refused the rich stuff
That's right.
that we love. You know, probably they didn't have the pastries and the cookies and
That's right. The king's food was what only the king and the king's people could afford, and it wasn't always the healthiest. And the interesting thing is that who fared better?
it's so plain in that passage of scripture. They were healthier, they looked better, they had more energy.
And what were they eating?
Vegetables and stuff, wasn't it?
Fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and drinking water. 2 of the steps in my book.
Yes, I cannot emphasize enough the total completion of this book.
Because
It
I
really
talk
answers
about
it.
Daniel in my book. Are we eating the king's food today? Are we eating foods that we know that aren't good for us when God has provided all these things in
Everything we
nature for our healing?
Describe doctors' reaction to your blood work. Some of them were pretty surprised, weren't they, in the middle of the treatment?
They were amazed because after my 4th chemo, I went to see a doctor who was a Duke University grad as a second opinion about my chemotherapy and how things were going. He was a local doctor, and he looked at me and he said, in 30 years of practice, I have never looked at a cancer patient in the eye on what you're on, and they're smiling at me. You're bald as a bat. I didn't have one hair on my head, okay? He said, but you're thriving, and I want to know what you're doing differently.
So the doctor asked you.
Right, so I started telling him what I was doing differently, and I told him about hydration. I told him about exercise. And he said, now I know that those things help, and I try to get my patients to do it, but they don't always listen. He said, what else are you doing? And I told him. He ended up researching what I was telling him, and he convinced that hospital system to start a cancer prevention and wellness center, training 2 nurse practitioners that would help cancer patients, first of all, people to prevent cancer, and help other patients through the journey, and help other cancer patients so the cancer wouldn't come back, so they could change their diet.
I think that is an amazing story. How
What was
you
really
changed the
amazing
doctor.
was my own doctor after the 6th chemo. He looks at me, and it's 6 weeks after the 6th chemo. He said, you know, this is rare, and they call me their rock star cancer patient. My red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets were all back within normal ranges. But make no mistake, it was what I was doing. I was taking the best of God's bounty to re-nourish myself. I was rebuilding my gut as the chemo was tearing it down. I was hydrating. I was exercising like crazy. I was doing all these things to build my immune system up while the chemo was tearing it down to kill the cancer. And I did fare much better.
Most of your exercise was walking.
It really
I know
was.
you did other things.
Yeah, I did other things, but I was walking. I'll tell you the best example of the walking was after my first surgery. I had 100 stitches, and I had all these tubes attached to my body, and that just uncomfortable
anyway?
for me. And so I asked the nurse what I could do to get rid of the catheter first, and he said, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, if you will walk 4 rounds of the hospital floor, I'll take it out. Well, I got up at 6 o'clock. I was ready to go. I had to pull the pole behind me, and I laugh about this. I was pole walking. I was not pole dancing, but I'm pulling this pole with all these tubes behind it, and I did the 4 rounds, and it felt so good. I said, how many to a mile? And he said, 18, but I don't think you can do that. I said, don't say can't. I did the mile, and then he called my doctor and said, Miss Brant's still going. Should I stop her? And she said, no, it'll only promote healing. I made it 2 miles on the hospital floor that day.
Good for you.
I got released early, and all the tubes that my husband had been prepared, he'd have to take care of at home and nurse for several weeks.
Well, I bet he was happy.
They took them all out that day.
Praise
they said, we
God.
rarely do this, but you're going home with no tubes and no attachments.
Yeah, we're out of time right now, but she's going to be on the next program, so be sure you tune in. And I can't tell you how good it makes me feel to be able to bring someone like this on the program and give you this good information, and it could make a real difference in your life. So until then, next program, don't miss it. Never forget, there's nothing more important than being a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.